This is how you walk on lava without the magma fruit and take absolutely no damage. And this is how you increase your PvP skills by 10 times. These are some of the most insane Blox Fruits facts that you must know. Alright, starting off with the first fact is something that you guys definitely did not know about, and it's something to do with the leopard fruit. Everyone knows that there's lava around the map, especially on the second sea, and you take damage to this lava unless you have the lava fruit, which kind of makes sense because if you have the lava fruit equipped, how are you going to take damage to lava? But did you know that if you actually have the leopard fruit equipped, you also won't take any damage to the lava? And that's something that's really crazy, and it actually makes absolutely no sense. But you can try it for yourself, and it might come in handy in PvP. If you're fighting someone next to lava, then you can surprise them by running on the lava if you have the leopard fruit. But that's really situational, so I don't know when you use this. But let's head over to the next fact. Okay, so while we're on the topic of taking no damage to lava, I have another fact here that helps you guys take absolutely no damage. And for this one, you don't need any fruit, fighting style, gun, or even sword equipped to do it. You just simply need your spacebar. And some of you might already know this method, and it's really similar to taking no damage in water either. All you gotta do is just simply b-hop on the lava, and what I mean by this is just hold down your spacebar, and when you keep jumping around the lava, you'll take absolutely no damage. Just make sure you don't stand still for even a second, because then you'll start taking a butt ton of damage all at the same time. So now you know what to do if you're in a fight against someone next to a lava area. You just gotta jump around in the lava, and you'll take absolutely zero damage. Alright, a pretty interesting fact about Blox Fruits that I bet you definitely did not know about, and this is about the bosses in the game. And the cool thing is that they actually use the old versions of the fruits. And what I mean by this is that when Blox Fruits initially came out, some of the fruits in the game were completely different to what they are now, and a ton of fruits have had reworks and many updates. And an insane example of this is the love fruit that the Island Empress boss uses. The Island Empress boss uses the old version of the love fruit, and you can see this when you fight her. She uses many old abilities that are not in the game anymore. And it's something that's pretty cool about Blox Fruits. Even though they updated and reworked the fruits, you can still see them in game. Another example of a boss that uses this is the Magma Admiral. And when you fight him, you'll instantly notice that he uses a certain punch ability, which is not available for the normal magma fruit. But anyways, this doesn't have much practical use, it's just something cool to see about the game. Okay, so this new fact has something to do with the love fruit, and it's actually a pretty cool way to grind your sword while using your fruit. And you guys might be wondering, what do I mean by that? Well, everyone knows about the ability of the love fruit, the best of friendo, the hardest ability to get from this fruit. When you use the best of friendo, you actually do not level up your fruit when you fight NPCs, you actually level up your sword. Well, not the NPCs you fight, it's technically the NPCs that your best of friendo fights. And when you look at the top of your screen after your best of friendo kills someone, you'll notice that you're actually getting upgrades for your swords, not for your fruit. And that's actually something pretty weird. Even though your best of friendo is using a sword, I feel like you should get fruit points. But it depends on what you are. If you're a sword main, then having the love fruit equipped just to grind your sword is not that bad of an idea. Okay, so this next one is actually kind of a useless fact, and it has something to do with the awakened Buddha. Everyone knows that the Buddha has two versions, the awakened and the unawakened. And when you awaken your Buddha, you actually get an extra F ability, a movement ability, which lets you dash forward. But did you know that even if you have the ability and you revert your Buddha's transformation to the unawakened version, you actually cannot use the ability, even though you can literally see it on the bottom right of your screen in the abilities menu, which literally makes no sense. But I guess it has something to do with the code, which prevents that ability from being used in the unawakened version. Not really sure. Okay, so this next fact is about an accessory. Everybody knows about the Pale Scarf accessory. You get it from defeating the Cake Prince or the Dough King, and increases your observation range by literally 10 times, which lets you see much further. But did you know that there's actually a way to use this ability from the scarf without actually having the scarf equipped? You can literally have a different accessory equipped and you can still use it. And the way you do this is by initially equipping the Pale Scarf, and then you have to turn on your observation. And then you simply have to switch to a different accessory, and you keep the long-range observation. Just make sure you don't turn off your observation, because then you lose the ability. But still, this is really overpowered in my opinion, and it will especially help a ton when it comes to PvP. Alright, next fact I got on the list is something that's gonna help you a butt ton in PvP. But it actually depends on how well you utilize it. And this is something to do with the dash mechanic. If you guys have watched my previous videos, you know that using dashes in PvP is extremely important, and it can change the tide of a battle in a second. And the reason for this is that you can dodge attacks really fast. But there's actually an advanced variation to this dash that you should definitely learn, especially if you want to get better at PvP. And I'm talking about the change directions midway dash. And this has a pretty weird name. Well, that's because I named it. I don't think it has an official name yet, but that's what I'm gonna call it for now. Basically, what this does is it lets you change directions mid-dash, exactly like the name suggests. And to do this, all you need to do is dash in a certain direction and then press any other direction on your keyboard. So for example, if you want to dash forward with W, then press S instantly after you dash. What this will do is will dash you a little bit ahead, but then it'll instantly bring you back. And you can use this to juke out enemies from using the abilities, especially if they're using fruits, because it takes a lot of time to recharge on those abilities. And forward and backwards is not the only way you can use this dash. You can also use it sideways, and you can combine it with other directions as well. It just depends on how you want to use it. But that's pretty much it for this fact. Let's head over to the next one. Okay, next up I got a fact about the control fruit, and this is something pretty minor, but it could save your life if you use it correctly. Everyone knows that the control fruit creates a huge dome, but did you know that you actually fall in slow motion while you're creating the dome? And this is something, if used right, you can actually juke your enemies into using all their abilities while you're midair. And they could end up missing because it's pretty hard to hit someone when they're midair. And to do this, all you have to do is simply double jump a bunch of times into the sky and then use your dome ability. And this gets 2 birds with 1 stone. It lets them waste their abilities if they try and hit you, and you can deploy your zone without them doing any damage to you, and then you can fight them for real. But it completely depends on how you use it. If you're fighting against someone with super good aim, then they could probably end up killing you, but I don't think the average Blox Fruits player has that type of aim. Okay, so while we're still on the topic of the control fruit, have you guys ever wondered what's the biggest thing the control fruit can move? Everyone knows that you can move around small things like houses and trees, but what if we turn that up a notch? If you head over to the bridge on the second seat, can you actually move this with the control fruit? Well, yes and no. You can't really move the whole bridge at the same time, but you can move parts of it, and this still counts as a really huge object. But where you really turn it up a notch is when you head over to this tree where the diamond boss spawns. You can literally move the whole tree with the control fruit, and that'll just be really overpowered because there's literally a missing tree on the map, which makes this area kind of look out of place. And this tree is actually the biggest thing in the game that you can move with the control fruit. So if you're fighting someone next to this tree with the control fruit, just know that it can actually pick this up. Okay, so everybody knows about Rip INDRA. He's literally the person that created Blox Fruits, but did you know that there's actually 4 variations of him? There's a Rip INDRA raid boss, there's a normal Rip INDRA, and there's a Rip INDRA NPC. And as an extra, there's also the Rip INDRA who created the game. But let's start off with the Rip INDRA NPC. And this is an NPC that's to change your Darkblade skin. You can switch it to the Slayer skin, or you can have it on the default. But in my opinion, I think the default looks better. Next up, we got the normal Rip INDRA. And this is the Rip INDRA you see in the flashback when you enter the 3rd sea, fighting against My Game 43. Next up, finally, we got the Rip INDRA raid boss. And most people actually don't know that this boss even exists. You have to do a long and tedious quest, and you can search that up if you want to do it, but you have to be really high level. I recommend you get some friends. But overall, he's a really solid boss, and like I said before, get some help if you're fighting him. Okay, now I'm going to be telling you guys about some secret currencies that you definitely did not know existed in Blox Fruits. Well, it actually kind of depends how new you are to the game. The first one I got here are hearts. And this is a legendary limited time currency, and it could be dropped by any NPCs in the game, but only during the Valentine's event. You could buy things like money, race rerolls, XP boost, random fruits, and fragments. You could also buy the party hat and the aquamarine color. The next secret currency we got here is candies, and you guessed it, you can only use this during the winter events, and the way you get it is exactly the same as hearts. During the event, you have to kill NPCs. You could talk to an NPC called Santa Claus who trades you the elf hat and the Santa hat, or even the sleigh boat in return for these candies. The magic elf who trades you 15 minutes of double XP, stat refunds, and race rerolls. Then you have the greedy elf who trades you fragments. And that's pretty much it for these 2 currencies. Just know that you can't get them anymore, but you probably can during the upcoming Christmas. Okay, so this next fact I got here is about Roblox Premium, and I'm sure you all know what it is. But did you know that if you have it, you actually get some extra in-game benefits in Blox Fruits, and those benefits are 20% off from the Blox Fruit dealer's cousin, and that will save you a lot of money, especially if you're max level. Next bonus is a 10% additional XP earn boost. That's gonna help you a ton when you're leveling up. And you also get an added 10% additional money earned boost. And that's going to help you a butt ton when you're saving up to buy a bunch of stuff. And trust me, 10% might not seem like a lot, but if you get 10 million belly, then you basically just get 1 million extra that you couldn't have gotten if you didn't have Roblox Premium. But I don't think it's super important for leveling up, but if you want to make your leveling life a little bit easier, then I recommend getting it. Okay, so everybody knows about crews and Blox Fruits, but a lot of you actually don't understand how they work. Well, starting a crew is pretty easy. The only requirements for this is to be level 300. Then you simply click this icon on the left side of your screen and boom, you can start a crew. But keep in mind, this is only to start a crew, and you can actually join a crew if you're under level 300. Once you do this, you can click on this icon. It'll show you your crew's name and its total bounty. And each crew can hold a total of 30 people. And if you're the crew captain, you can actually head over to the graveyard and you can buy a new player slot for your crew for a total of 2,000 fragments. And if you want to grow your crew, this will cost a total of 30,000 fragments for 15 extra slots. And as of the time of recording this video, the crew with the highest bounty in-game is the Kit Kat Club. And this crew has a total of a 3 billion bounty. And that's rounded up, which is actually really crazy. Some extra perks you get with the crew is that your crew's total bounties is actually shown above your players, so before people decide to fight you, they'll know who they're messing with. And if you're a top 10 crew in the game, you'll actually earn the Pirate King title, which is a really rare title. And the participants must remain in the crew at all times in order to earn the titles. So if you end up leaving the crew, then you'll completely lose the title. But overall, that's a pretty basic recap of how crews work. Okay, so this next fact I got here is actually pretty annoying and pretty funny at the same time. And I actually discovered this while recording a different video. And that's that you can actually drop fruits through walls. If the hand you're holding the fruit in is actually glitched through a wall, then you'll end up dropping that fruit through that wall. And I actually ended up dropping my fruit directly through this wall. So if you guys have a fruit and you're trying to drop it to your friend, just make sure you're not standing close to any walls because you might end up dropping it through them.